file in. I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. Welcome to another live video here on YouTube. Today we're going to be talking as usual about fluency, but I'm going to go into more detail with some strange advice for English learners that should help you become a more confident speaker. This is something I go into great detail about in chapter 6, if I remember. I've been working on all these. So my new book is nearly complete, but early readers are already enjoying it, and I've just released chapter 6 a couple days ago. There are 2 chapters left. So part of this video will be just collecting any feedback or if there are any questions, because I really do want to make this the ultimate resource for people who know a lot of English but still struggle to speak. So I really want you to understand why this happens and give you an alternative approach that actually works. So it's the same thing I use to get fluent in Japanese, and I still use it to help my own kids learn, and I still use it to learn Japanese myself. But we'll let people file in, but I guess since we are, looks like people are there. Rola, nice to see you there. Hopefully you are doing well. And let's see, Olaviano says, good. Nice to see you there. Aventuras. I like that name, Aventuras. I remember I went to a kind of, it was a diving course thing in Cancun, Mexico. And it was, the company was like a Dive Aventuras for, I guess, adventures. Anyway, so today I want to talk about chapter 6 a little bit, and now that the meat of the book is finally complete, so anybody who has the book now has the whole system, and what we talk about in chapters 7 and 8, those are the remaining chapters, but what we talk about there is kind of, now that we see how, excuse me, now that we see how this worked and how people are actually able to get fluent in this way, why does it work, and talking about some lessons and principles and things like that. So it's further information to really help people understand how fluency works. But anybody who has the book already, it's called The Strangest Fluency Secret. If you do not have it, you can click on the link in the description below this video to get it, to join early access before the book is even finished, if you'd like to start reading it as I write the book. So people who write it are actually giving me feedback and improving the book. So I go back and update specific things about the book, or make sure people are understanding things well. So today I wanted to talk about chapter 6 a little bit, and as I mentioned in the last video, I think that was a week ago, I was talking about these 2 different parts of being able to speak. So the first part is just being correct and actually saying, using textbook English correctly, or not even textbook English, but just being able to say the right thing in the sense that you're using correct English. The other part of this is being appropriate. So you actually say not just correct words, but you're also using the right thing for a situation. And in some cases, that might even be incorrect English. For example, if I say, this is a common example I give, so there's 2 cats. There's 2 cats over there. There's 2 cats over there. So here, you can probably spot the incorrect English. It should be there are 2 cats over there instead of there's 2 cats. But the reason we say it this way is because nobody really cares, especially in a casual conversation, and it's just faster to say, hey, there's 2 cats over there. Oh, there's some parking spaces over there. So we don't have to say there are, and there's no good contraction for there. We don't say that. So often we just use theirs, and we sound very natural, but we wouldn't want to write this, obviously. So this is, again, something we would use in spoken English. But the point here is that we might have something that's correct, but even if you're using what's correct, it might not necessarily be what's appropriate for the situation. So if you ever worry about maybe you're saying something and you don't know if it sounds quite what a native might say, if it sounds like what a native might say, or you don't know if maybe you're being too polite or too rude, or you're offending somebody and you don't realize it. This is the same kind of thing. So in the book, we go into both of these things. Chapter 5 is all about correctness and how we actually learn to speak correct English. But chapter 6 is going further than that, and it's going through my story of how I'm understanding how this works and how we can actually be appropriate. So today I wanted to talk about fluency itself, because when you do these two things, number one, learning to be correct, and number two, learning what's appropriate, something magical starts to happen. The fluency actually starts to develop. And so we'll get back to that in just a moment, but let me check. Got some comments here. Let's see. Eliana says PR, whatever that means, but nice to see you there. Denise says, hey. Akash says, hi, Drew. And Chuck's Adam. Looks like Olaviano says, living in Brazil. So you would say I'm, so I am living here in Brazil. Ali says, hello, Drew. Bridget, hi to my favorite teacher, Drew. Nice to see you there. JH says, I love you. Well, thank you very much. Augustin, hi, Drew. I am literally reading chapter 6 right now. I am really enjoying it. Thanks for the content you share. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Let me know if there's anything specifically you don't understand. I know it's a bit of it's not really a complicated idea. Basically, this is about applying the same idea of chapter 5 to how we can understand situations as well. So I can go back into detail about this in this video if you'd like to learn more about that, but so far I'm glad you are understanding it and enjoying it. Let's see, and Julian says, hello, teacher, and people here, greetings from Colombia. And Haney, yes, thank you for writing your name again, and it's my pleasure to welcome you back. George, nice to see you there, and Silvana, nice to see you there as well. All right, so let's talk about this, because I want to explain two things here. The first is where fluency actually comes from, and I believe, Akash, maybe you were sending us mails about specific questions about the book. And hopefully I can enlighten you, and hopefully if you have not read chapter 6 already, please do, because chapter 6 will really explain in detail what I'm going to cover right now. So today's video is really, as I mentioned at the beginning, some strange advice. Actually, the whole book is basically strange advice, because most people assume that they will be speaking in order to become more confident and fluent, but as the book reveals, there is an opposite approach where you actually become confident and fluent before you speak. So the point is, you become confident and certain about the language, and that's what actually allows you to speak. Because the thing that really stops most people who know a lot of English but struggle to speak is they're not certain about the language. So they might be able to understand what natives are saying, or they're watching movies or TV shows. Maybe you can understand everything I'm saying in this video, but you still have trouble putting your own words together. The only real difference there is that you don't need to be certain when I'm speaking, but you do need to feel certain when you are speaking. Because if you are unsure about your grammar or vocabulary or pronunciation or whatever else, that will stop you from expressing yourself. Now, some people can just try to speak anyway, even if they make mistakes, but most people in general, on average, are thinking about not wanting to express mistakes or say the wrong thing or things like that. So if you could know the correct thing, know the appropriate thing before you start speaking, then you would feel a lot more confident about expressing yourself. So that's how the whole book works. But I want to talk about something like that. Many people talk about fluency, but don't really go into detail about exactly how it develops, like how this process or this skill of knowing the right thing to say and being able to say it without hesitation, how that skill actually develops. So in chapter 5 of the book, I talk about developing or cultivating or gaining magnetic vocabulary. And magnetic vocabulary just means you know the vocabulary well enough that you can actually see what comes before it or what comes after it. You understand these patterns really well. This is part of developing your sense of correctness, so you actually use the right thing without thinking about it. But then in chapter 6, again, we talk about what's appropriate and learning from that. So we have these two basic ways of learning. So we'll just call one the language So we've got language pieces, and these would be things like vocabulary or grammar, pronunciation, any kind of small unit of the language that you would find typically in a lesson or a textbook, something like that. And there's nothing wrong with this. It's not talking like good or bad. It's just there are pieces of the language, and if we put them together in the correct way, then we can make correct sentences. So if I say like, I am hot, this is a correct sentence. We've taken all these pieces, like, you know, we have who we're talking about, what's going on, what we're describing, and we are able to put these together in the right order to form a correct sentence. So this is how we can take the pieces of the language and put them together correctly. Now, in addition to that, something that a lot of learners don't think about is actual situations. And these two things combined are what allow you to express yourself fluently, and I'll show you how this works. Again, I go into much more detail about this in the book, which you can click on the link in the description below this video to get. But we'll just cover this because it's good, naturally varied review to hear it in the book or read it in the book and also see me talking about it here. Learning more about naturally varied review, if you don't know all about that already, that's also covered in the book. So anyway, we've got these language pieces and we've got situations over here. So in a textbook, we might read something like, I am hot, which is correct. But let's say we have a real situation. So right now it's Nagasaki. I'm in Nagasaki, Japan. It's actually crazy hot today. I'm inside in front of the air conditioning, staying cool as I record this video for you. But when I'm walking outside, it's crazy hot outside. I mean, it's sweltering heat. I'm dripping with sweat. I've got, my shirt is stuck to me. So these are all things that I could describe in the same kind of way. So I have a particular situation where we begin with like me physically being hot and then how I might describe that. So for example, let's see, it's hot as hell. It's hot as hell. So I'm likening or making a comparison between the weather here and whatever hell is like. I don't know. I've never been there. Hopefully I don't go, but yeah, we'll see. Anyway, when we're talking about this, it's hot as hell. Woo, it's hot as hell. Or as I just mentioned, it's crazy hot. Okay? Or we might have something like on a news broadcast that's a slightly different or maybe more polite. So this is a bit more casual and common, but maybe a polite way to say it is like it's extremely hot or uncomfortably hot or incredibly hot. So we have a situation, and if we begin with the situation, we actually see a wide range of different ways to express a particular idea. All right. So when I talk about situations in the book, a situation could really be anything, even something as small as stretching. So what do I say in English when I stretch? Like, that particular sound I make. Like that's an actual thing that maybe people who speak a different language would say differently. I can't speak for every language, but like in Japanese, you might express it differently, or when people stand up from a chair, they might say like, that's a particular way of expressing that same thing differently for that situation. Even if I'm using a filler word like or you know, or like, in Japanese, those things might be ano desu ne. So I'm kind of thinking or hesitating or pausing, but again, the situation is the same, but different people who speak different languages or even different people within those languages would express those things differently. Now, the point of all this is that when you're trying to learn a language, often people spend most of their time over here. They learn phrases for something which are correct, but often they miss a lot of this over here that natives are actually using. And so when someone says it's crazy hot, if you just see that written down in a book, you might think, well, okay, what does that mean, crazy hot? I guess crazy is like an extreme word maybe. So I guess, really hot, but you don't really feel it in the same way that seeing someone actually outside, you know, they're holding their shirt out like that. You see lots of Japanese people outside with a little paper fan, you know, like, oh, matsuya. It's crazy hot. Like I'm saying, it's really hot. You can actually feel it. And so the situation gives you not only the vocabulary, but you also get the timing, the feeling, the expression, all of these things that come together when you actually really see people using the language. Now, a lot of people are actually doing this already. Maybe they're watching TV shows or listening to music or whatever. So these are the kinds of things you can do when you're learning English or any language to absorb the real situation. So like seeing natives on TV shows or even on YouTube videos describing their day, whatever. I go into lots of these different things and ways you can do this in the book. But when you're seeing those different situations, again, you're getting the whole picture rather than just kind of pieces of the language. So what I recommend people do is you're learning from the pieces and then trying to fit them into situations, which is good. And a lot of people do this. A lot of natives do this. Actually, really every native does this. So even my own kids or other people I know, if they're learning new information, they might ask, what does that word mean? Or how do we pronounce this? Or, you know, what's a good way to express a particular thing? So there's nothing wrong with focusing on the pieces. The problem is if you don't see them all connected in situations, it's much more difficult to develop actual fluency because you're not really prepared for how natives actually speak. Okay. So again, we'll give some more examples of this in just a moment, but let me go back and read chat to make sure I haven't lost anybody. But the idea, hopefully this makes sense to people. When you're learning your native language, typically as a child, we begin with situations, and this is like seeing adults in your life, like your parents, they describe things, they're showing you things as they talk about it, and you naturally learn the language that way. But the point is you're learning the pronunciation and the vocabulary, the grammar, but little nuances and culture and all of these things as you're starting to learn the language. So you're really getting the whole picture at what time? At one time. It's only later as children get a little bit older, they start going to school, that they start really focusing on pieces of the language over here, where they're not just asking their parents what something means, but they're actually learning specific names for grammar points and things like that. So it's not necessary to get this, but when you're only learning from situations, it can be very overwhelming, especially for an adult non-native. So if you try watching a movie, there are actually lots of little situations happening all the time. So a person might do something and then they say something else, or they have this other little moment. All of these little moments have something that maybe a person might say or different people might express differently in that same situation. And so when kids are learning, they're getting all this input and they're actually not understanding a lot of it. It really takes a lot of time because when you're getting all this information coming at you, it's hard to understand. You know, it's like trying to do a science experiment without actually knowing the specific thing you're looking for. So if I start a science experiment, I have 10 different plants, and each one of those plants has a different thing done with it, but there are actually a couple of different things done to each plant. I have no idea what's good or bad or anything I can figure out. But what I would rather do is like change one variable for each of those plants, and that would teach me something like they all have the same sunlight, they all have the same amount of water, but maybe I give them a slightly different growing chemical and then see what happens. So that's how we can actually test and see what something means. So the brain thinks like this, and if you're getting too many variables, too many different pieces of information at the same time, it's hard to understand. You know, that makes sense. And that's why when young kids are watching movies and things like that, there's lots of information that they're just not getting. They don't pay attention to that. So it's important to remember when people talk about learning like a native, we're talking really about learning from situations, but the benefit we have as non-native learners, and especially adults who can control the way we learn, is we can decide what we're going to learn. We can focus on specific things, make it easy for our brains to understand those situations, and that's how we can get fluent much faster, okay? So remember, the goal with this approach is to get certainty. We want to understand things and feel confident about using them before we speak. That way, when we do speak, we feel confident about expressing ourselves. It's a pretty simple idea. It's just the opposite of what people typically do, and that's why it sounds strange to a lot of people. So after I go back and check comments, we'll talk about how we can use this and how we actually build fluency with this. So fluency really means you're able to express yourself like I'm doing now. The words are just flowing out of my mouth. I'm not spending really much time at all thinking about what I want to say. I don't have a plan for this video other than the general ideas I want to talk about, but hopefully people will get the idea that what I'm really doing is I'm using language pieces and also connecting things from situations. So I'll show you that in just a moment. Well, let's go back again, make sure I didn't miss anybody. And let's see, Guadalupe says, hi, amigo, I'm from Mexico, but I live in California. It's nice to listen to you. Well, welcome. And HJ, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, says, hi. Rolla says, as you talk about me, I understand 100% of what you are saying, but I can't speak like you. I don't have that certainty yet. It's okay. So when I was younger, I didn't have this certainty either. You know, it's something that we develop over time, especially as we're learning to understand vocabulary and situations much better, all right? But hopefully I've already given you a taste of this. I go into, again, a lot more detail in the book about this, but we'll get back to that in just a second. Burgess says hi. And well, Sita, nice to see you there. Hi, Drew and everyone. And Sue Z says hi. Olaviano says, Brazil in the station of the year is most hot than you most city. Well, I've never been to Brazil, but I imagine it's probably pretty hot down there. Japan is pretty bad though. And like the humidity is really bad here too. I'm guessing it's probably humid down there as well. What book is he talking about? I'm talking about The Strangest Fluency Secret, which you can click on the link in the description to learn more about. It is the book I am writing right now and nearly complete. I have only 2 chapters, and those chapters will probably be shorter, but the most, really, I mean, actually everything up until chapter 6 is like the real meat of the system, so especially chapters 5 and 6. Those took me a while to complete because they are longer. That's about half of the book, just those 2 chapters. But you can click on the link right now to get the book if you have not gotten it already. Let's see, Van says, hi, sir, I'm learning Japanese as well. Do you have any advice? I'm starting with hiragana and katakana. Yeah, so really the same things I recommend in the book for learning English are the same things that I do for learning Japanese. So if you're curious to know exactly how I did that, get the book. It really tells the story of how I actually learned Japanese and how I'm able to speak it today. See, this says Brazil's in the house. Yes, Brazil is often represented in these videos. Dina says, hello, it is winter now, but in the summer we can have temperatures of 50 degrees. Oh my goodness, that is crazy hot. 50. All right, never mind then. Japan is just fine. I won't complain. I don't know what the temperature is today. It's probably 30 something maybe. Canaro, nice to see you there. Hi, Drew, long time no see. The word sweltering was new for me. Thanks. Yes, again, as we get new situations, I try to throw in these newer words that some more advanced learners like yourself might not know already. But there is always something new to learn, and that's why when we focus on situations and we see different people expressing things differently, that's how we can start to really build fluency. So we build a vocabulary that we understand really well, and we start using it in a variety of situations. Ahmad from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Nice to see you there. All right, let's continue this idea. Again, I go into a lot more detail about this in the book, but I thought people would appreciate some more examples of this. So I think, again, Akash, if you're still with us, we got some mails asking good questions for the book and how we actually develop fluency. And so one of those questions, and this is one of the main questions in chapter 6, is how can you possibly learn everything you need to know to speak about anything? All right. And I thought about this. I didn't put this example in the book for for chapter 6. But if you think about, who was that just mentioned? Van is also learning Japanese. So this is a tricky thing about learning Japanese. For example, when you learn English, there are 26 letters, and you just learn to combine those in different ways to be able to read, and you can learn new words quite easily that way. But the tricky thing about Japanese is if you see a particular character that you haven't learned yet, it's really quite difficult or almost impossible for you to understand that thing without getting an example or looking it up or having a teacher tell you what it is. So in English, if you see a new word, like I could write down some random letters and you could probably sound it out and maybe from context figure out what's happening, or maybe you'd heard the word before. But in Japanese, it's like trying to read a newspaper before you understand all the languages is basically impossible to do. So this is why there are things like hiragana and katakana, which are the two other written languages, like the written scripts that you can use in Japanese. Anyway, I thought it's kind of a similar idea for people trying to learn English, and often as they are learning, they might learn like it is hot or my name is this or something, but obviously they want to be able to talk about a whole range of things. And when you feel like you are prepared to talk about almost anything, then you really feel free and easy, and you have basically perfect confidence. Like me today, I can go out and talk with anybody. I might not know all the vocabulary, but I can usually have a conversation with people about pretty much anything in Japanese. And I explain how I developed that in chapter 6. But I want to go into more detail about how this actually works with some more examples. So let's say we've got language pieces. So again, when you're learning from language pieces, we begin with some kind of vocabulary. We try to understand how something works. But then we get more examples and really try to get that certainty. So we really feel confident that we know how something works and that we can also use that vocabulary in a wide range of situations. So that's what enables us, that kind of hidden skill that allows us to speak fluently, because we're not just learning one word, we're actually learning or getting a tool that we can use in a variety of situations. So for an example, let's say we've got the phrase, I'm swamped. S-W-A-M-P-E-D, I'm swamped. So I'm talking with a friend of mine, or even I can describe my own experience. So I've been really busy. I really enjoy reading, but lately I have not sat down and read a book in a while because I've been so busy writing my own book. And so I really miss just sitting and relaxing and reading other books. I've been so swamped with doing the book and other things I need to do. I've just been incredibly busy, all right? So here we're getting an example of the term swamped, like I'm very busy at something, or very busy because of various activities. And then we might hear that in a variety of situations. So here we're kind of connecting it back with the situations over here. Again, as I describe in the book, we usually begin with words like this and then try to see how they fit into particular situations. Those are the typical example sentences you might get in a textbook or from ChatGPT or whatever. So we have, I'm swamped. I can talk about, I was really swamped at work today. I had lots of phone calls and I had to fill out a bunch of papers and other things like that. So I was really swamped at work. I was swamped at work. Or I was trying to plan my wedding with my girlfriend, and we're just like swamped with all these different things that we need to do, all the different planning for the venue, like the place where we're gonna have it, and the church, and the whatever, the place that we're gonna have cater the reception afterwards. We're like swamped with all this stuff that we have to do. Okay, so we begin with something like swamp, or we could even learn in a bit more detail about a word like swamp, where that comes from. If you don't know what a swamp is, it's like a typical natural environment. So you might have something like a forest. So we got kind of a ground here with trees and things like that, some bushes or whatever. But a swamp is where we have maybe some level of water around all this. So you can imagine it's difficult to move. Maybe if I'm trying to walk in a forest, I can easily walk because the ground is dry. But if I'm walking through a swamp, you know, there's water out here, there might be snakes and alligators and things like that. Who knows what's lurking, you know, who knows what's to lurk, like waiting and hiding, to lurk in the water. So who knows what's lurking in this swamp? So you can imagine trying to walk in this water. It's really difficult. You can't move your legs very easily. So this same idea of being swamped, like you're covered or you're drowning in water and it's difficult to move or think or get all of your work done, this is where that comes from. So right now, you notice I'm spending a lot of time talking about this language piece here, talking about being swamped, giving a few examples of it, but now we can really understand the vocabulary really well. And knowing that now gives us a really great expression that we can use to talk about being busy in any situation, okay? So when we're talking about developing fluency, the purpose is not to learn a bunch of words. I'm not trying to teach you 20 words right now and have you memorize those. I'm trying to really help you understand something so you feel certain about using it. But not only that, when you know it well, you see, I actually understand what the word means or how it might be used in a variety of situations, and that's power right there. So you're not just knowing a word, but you actually feel confident applying it in a wide range of situations. Like I was swamped at work, or I was actually swamped by, like, you know, a whole bunch of people, you know, asking me questions and things like that. Like, let's say there's the chat right now and 30 people all at the same time ask me a bunch of different questions. I get swamped with questions, okay? So as you hear these different examples, you feel more confident about using the vocabulary, and now you feel, wow, like I'm actually becoming fluent word by word, okay? So this is something I'll talk a little bit more in detail about in chapter 7, but really what's happening is by understanding the vocabulary really well, you know how to use it, you feel confident about it, you feel certain, and that's what allows you to speak, okay? So let's go back to situations. You can see there's a lot of overlap here, so something is connected or overlapping with something else. So we got the language pieces, and those are fitting into situations, but situations also are teaching a lot of language pieces. So it's not like these are really two different things, it's more about your approach. So do you begin with language pieces and try to fit those into situations, or do you begin with situations and then try to understand the different pieces of those situations, like the pronunciation or the grammar or vocabulary or whatever? All right, hopefully this is making sense. Let me know, give me like a thumbs up or something if this is making sense. Because I know it's really a simple idea. Both of these things are connected, but again, what a lot of learners do is you start with language pieces, but you never really feel confident that you understand how they fit, because a situation has more than just these pieces. It's not just pronunciation or grammar or vocabulary. You've also got timing, enunciation, emphasis. We've got all these different things that come together. That's why in the book, I actually represent this with a puzzle piece. So I'll give you kind of another thing here. If you can imagine, like I show in the book, we've got language pieces like here. Imagine this is a puzzle piece. The situation over here is actually the whole puzzle. So we've got like this piece over here, but we've also got all these other pieces that come together that you can understand from the situation as well, okay? So let's look at another situation. Let's say I lost my keys, all right? So just thinking about something off the top of my head. If you have any others as we go through this example, let me know, but this is the basic idea. So we begin with a situation like, I lost my keys. I lost my keys. So we see that a situation has some way to be described, and so a situation has some kind of language connected with it. But there are, as I'll go through right now, different ways of expressing this. Can you think of some others? What's another way that a person might express this idea? So the situation is like, oh no, I lost my keys. How else might we say that? Any ideas? I'll give people a second as I take a quick drink of water over here. I lost my keys. I lost my keys. If you can't think of anything, I will give you an example, but hopefully you guys can think of something. All right, Diep says a little hand over there waving, and Mekrok, if I'm pronouncing that, hey, long time no see. And Nathaniel said something and then just disappeared from me. Okay, you guys are getting it. Hi, teacher. I'm trying to find my keys. I'm trying to find my keys. That's another way you could say that. So those situations are kind of a little bit different. So the first one is like that specific moment where like, I realize I've lost my keys. But then we kind of move into this second one here of now that I realize I've lost them, now that I know I've lost them, okay, now I'm trying to find my keys. So the situations are slightly different, but yes, it makes sense. This is just another way of expressing a similar kind of thing. So LF says, I can't find my keys. My keys are missing. Another good one. My keys are missing. My keys are missing. Any other examples? Let's see. I don't know where are my keys. Oh, pretty good. I would say here, I don't know. So the order of this, I don't know where my keys are. I don't know where my keys are. Another example, Peaceful says, oh my God, OMG, where are my keys? Again, with same thing, where. So where are my keys? So I don't know where my keys are, or we can reverse that, where are my keys? Well, and have you seen my keys is, yeah, it's another way we could say something in this particular situation. Have you seen my keys? Have you seen my keys? Okay, I think we're getting down to the end of the board over here, but I think people get the idea. So in this situation, if you see a couple of different natives all describing this, they are going to describe this in slightly different ways. Isn't that interesting? And so when you're focusing on, again, just the language pieces, let's say I'm learning from a textbook. Has anyone seen my keys? From LF, yes, that's another good example. Has anyone seen my keys? But these are all correct, and they're all appropriate. You will find natives using all of these kinds of things. I am lost in love, says Bridget. A little bit different, but sure. Yes, if you're talking about your keys, maybe you could say I'm lost in love. But that's a different kind of, if you're talking about different ways of using the word lost. But yes, so you can see it's an interesting thing that starts to happen when you get multiple examples of how people might describe not just a word, like I'm not just learning the word swamp and seeing how it's used in different ways. I'm also focusing on a situation and seeing how different people might express the same situation differently, okay? So you can see some comparison here. It's not like one of these things is correct. Typically in a language lesson or a textbook example, you might get one of these things. You're probably not going to get a whole bunch of different ones, but to be prepared for how natives actually speak, this is what you need to get. You need to see different people expressing it so you have a really good sense for how you can express yourself appropriately. Now, as a learner, you might just say, I'm trying to find my keys, or I lost my keys. You might have something you say, but the purpose of this is also to be prepared for what other people might say. Okay? So in the book, we're talking about both of these, and so the key to developing fluency is we're starting to learn the language pieces and really understanding them well so that we can apply that and we have vocabulary that's got much greater value because we can use it in a wide variety of ways. If I just learn the word swamp, for example, so I've given you the word swamped in a more figurative or idiomatic expression, like I'm swamped. And if you don't understand what that means, then you don't really, if you have no situation or context to understand, then there's not much you can do. But typically we might, like, let's say we're playing, I don't know, a game, or we see like a physical swamp like this. So if I show my kids, we're driving through a forest, and then we see this kind of really wet place over here, and I say, oh, that's a swamp, and I can describe it like this. It's easy to understand. And from there, we learn the word swamp, but then we also understand how the word swamp could be used figuratively or idiomatically in lots of situations, okay? That's the value of knowing a word really well. When we feel certain about that word and we know we can use that word in a variety of situations, we become fluent in that word, okay? So it's not really like becoming fluent in the whole language. We become fluent in the word itself, knowing that we can use that word and we understand it really well. Like we feel certain about that, okay? In the same way, if we focus on situations, we're not just getting one example from a textbook or even one example from a movie. We're focusing on all of these different things. We see how a couple of different people might respond to that and think like, okay, how can I use this vocabulary in different ways? That gives us a lot of things. And of course, like Bridget just gave that example, like I lost. And now once we know that, oh, okay, I lost my keys. Maybe I lost something else. Oh no, I lost my dog. Oh no, I lost my favorite shirt. I lost my wallet. I lost, whatever. You can talk about anything like that. But the point is, we're learning in this kind of situation where we can't find something. This is a way of describing it. And so each one of these things becomes a particular way that we might describe not only this, but it's much easier to insert other words into that. I'm trying to find my whatever. Or I'm trying to find a job. I'm trying to find a girlfriend. I'm trying to find my way home. So I don't know where I am. Like I am lost. I'm trying to find my way home. Okay? So the point is, as we focus on situations and get many examples of these things, or as we focus on vocabulary and really understand it well, the point is really to get certainty in both of these areas. We're learning from the pieces, but also learning from the situations. We're doing both of those, and that's what gets you fluent, okay? It's knowing the vocabulary really well. You naturally come to understand how you can connect these things in actual conversations, and that's what allows you to speak. So when people are trying to explain what fluency is, like this is it. This is where you actually can talk about how something works and where you feel it and where you think, oh, like, now I know this vocabulary really well, so I can use it. If you don't know the word really well, often people, maybe they remember something, they learn it from a translation, but they don't actually know the word very well. They're not certain about it, they don't know it very well, they don't understand how it could be used in a variety of ways, so the word isn't worth much. It doesn't have much value because you don't know many ways that it could be used, okay? So when we're talking about fluency, this is what we're talking about. So let's say we know these kinds of things, and like I could even think of something like I'm swamped, or I could feel like just thinking of some other examples of this, like another situation or another way to describe this is like I can't, and we'll put it up here. I can't seem. Let me come over here. I can't seem to find my keys. I can't seem to find my keys. I can't seem to find something. So that's another very common way that people would express, oh no, I lost my keys. I can't seem to find my keys. My keys are missing. I lost my keys. I'm trying to find my keys. I don't know where my keys are. Where are my keys? Have you seen my keys? Have you seen my keys? I can't seem to find my keys. So let's say we say like, I'm swamped at work. I can't seem to find some free time. Okay? I can't seem to find a way to do something. I feel lost at work. I feel swamped at work. I'm trying to find like a way to get all my work done. Okay? You can see how we take things, and when we know them well, they become strong building blocks that we can build anything we want. So back when we were getting recently a couple of questions from Akash, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but this was asking, how can I be prepared to talk about anything? This is it. So this is actually how you can learn. Not knowing a lot, you don't have to know everything for every situation, because natives don't do that either. Natives don't know everything for every situation. They actually learn, how can I take what I know and express something in just whatever is appropriate or reasonable. There might be a perfect way to talk about something, and I talk about this in the book as well, but for most conversation, people are really just using the best fit that they can think of. So even right now, maybe if I planned and thought more, I could think of a better way to express what I'm explaining right now. Maybe. I mean, actually, I guess I did. It's all in the book. But if you're just thinking about like something happens and I'm looking for a way to express it, you can see how one situation teaches us a lot of very useful vocabulary that now we can go back and apply in a wide range of situations. All right, let me go back and check comments to see if I have, let's see. Well, my keys disappear. Well, another good example, I don't find my keys. Here we would say like, I can't find my keys. That's more talking about a specific moment. If you say something like, I don't find them, it means like ever. Like I never find my keys. Like I don't sleep, I don't do this, I don't do that. It means we're talking about any time at all. All right, but people had some other good examples. So my keys have disappeared. Or you can say my keys disappeared. That's another way to say it. So you wouldn't say my keys are disappeared, but you would say my keys have disappeared or my keys disappeared. My keys are missing. I do not know where my keys are. I lost my way coming from the airport. Very good. Lots of good examples here. Has anyone seen my keys? And Asifu says, you are the best. Well, glad to hear it. Julian says, I believe someone truly knows a language when they can speak it without thinking. Yes. And again, this is how you develop that skill. So I'm not thinking about things. When I know them well enough, I can naturally, quickly, easily just pick the right thing for the situation. It's knowing the vocabulary really well. That's what actually lets you forget the vocabulary when you speak, if that makes sense. So I'm not consciously thinking about all these things. Even right now as I speak, I'm just naturally weaving these things together. Like a train moving forward as I lay the track down in front of me. I'm not thinking about all of them as I try to speak. I'm not like, okay, what's the next word and how does that fit and how does this connect? No, you just see me speaking. And so I've developed that ability because I do these two things. So that's really it. And especially like doing the same thing in Japanese, if I want to continue speaking about whatever, it's because I've learned a lot of these patterns that now I can take them and mix and match them whenever I want to use these things, and I can create new language, or I can talk about novel things, like new things that I experience, or even particular situations. So I might not know the specific way to express something that like maybe every native knows, but for the most part, you see people expressing a wide range of things for different situations. So it's not like there's only one way to say something. There are really an infinite number of ways to say something. All right, Ann says, and how we can use swamped. Hope you explain. Well, hopefully you got those examples of like feeling swamped. It's like you feel like you're drowning or covered in work, or you don't have much time. You've got a lot of chores at the house to do. So, oh, I'm really swamped. I have to clean the house. I've got people coming over tonight and I need to make sure everything is cleaned. I have to do the laundry. I have to walk the dog and I have to do these other things. I'm swamped. well, I've got so much to do. I don't really know what I can do like to get all this stuff done. So it's like I'm covered in all of this, just like a forest is covered in water in that way, to be swamped by that thing. My keys have walked. Yes, you can, typically we say walked away. So the keys aren't just walking, they just like a child walking away from their parents. We use that phrasal verb to walk away. Vincent says, Professor Drew, thanks for the natural review that you give us. Is like dressing us up with the confidence to speak and interact with the world. Yes, that's exactly the point. And so the book shows you how to get this yourself. Obviously, it's great to have a teacher who can show you how to do it. So this is what we do in Fluent for Life. But if you don't want to do that, you just want to learn by yourself, which you can do, the book shows you exactly how. All right, Sita again, friends, let's give Drew some likes. Let's help the algorithm offer this content to other learners. Well, thank you very much. Yes, if you do like the video, please share it. Please click the like button. I don't know if you can click it multiple times. Actually, I don't know if clicking it more than once turns the like off. So just click it once, I guess. Whatever. But yes, all of your comments are much appreciated. You guys have some great ideas here and some useful examples. And also I can see where maybe you didn't quite understand something. But hopefully from these, the purpose here is to refine your understanding. Again, we're looking for certainty so you feel, now I got it. Now I really feel certain about using something, and that's when you start using it, okay? But hopefully, I'm trying to kind of simulate or show how the process of fluency develops for native speakers and how you can actually develop the same thing, because the process works the same way. Really, you're developing certainty about things, you're understanding patterns well, and as you learn these different things, it becomes easier to see how they interact, or how you can connect them or change things, or what we're talking about, and how we can apply these in different situations. Let's see. All right, Antonio says, it seems teacher doesn't read the comments. Yeah, well, I'm going back and forth. It's easier for me to kind of explain something and then go back. All right, MMG says, this is really helpful. Thank you, sir. Glad to hear it. If you'd like to learn more, click on the link to get the book. And what would you like to know specifically about the book? I'll come back to that in a second, but let me go through the rest of these. Antonio, he will read the comments. Okay, looks like Sita, the manager, is back managing people. Thank you very much. Steve says, is that allium? Is that sentence idiom? An idiom? Well, this is like, when we're using swamped in this way, we're using it as an idiom. But it's not important to know if it's an idiom or not. It's just like, the reason we call it an idiom is because we're not talking about like I am an actual swamp, or like I'm in a real swamp. It's just kind of a figurative use of that. So we're using the idea like I feel like I'm trapped in a swamp, like I'm kind of drowning in all of this work or chores or whatever. And of course, we get an ambulance coming. All right, Ganesh says, my keys have squirreled away somewhere. Now, this is a tricky one. Typically, when we use squirreled away, and this is a really great phrasal verb, to squirrel something away. If you think about an actual squirrel in a tree, often what they do, they will take little acorns and they will bury them, or they will hide them somewhere. This is known as squirreling something away. So it's become a phrasal verb to squirrel something away. And there are actually some pretty funny videos. You can find them right here on YouTube of squirrels hiding acorns in various places. Like up in, there's one video I saw where there was, I think, something wrong with a telephone pole. There was an electrical thing because squirrels had put a whole bunch of acorns inside it. And when someone opened it up, all these acorns fell out. So a squirrel had squirreled away a bunch of acorns in this little electrical box or whatever. Anyway, it's pretty funny. But again, the idea of squirreling away usually is intentional. So I would take something, I have squirreled my keys away somewhere, but maybe I don't remember where they are. So if I'm intentionally trying to hide them or keep them safe, that's what we would use. But typically the keys themselves, I guess you could use it in that way, like the keys have squirreled themselves away, something like that. You could say that, but natives would probably not use it in that way. Let's see here. All right, and Tom says, good morning, nice to see you there. And Professor, I do not understand what these examples have to do with the sentence. Which examples? So if you're talking about, like, we're kind of talking about two different things here, but I'm showing, like I demonstrate in the book, how you can learn from language pieces and you can learn to be correct. So this is where you might study vocabulary or grammar or whatever in a textbook. But if you don't also learn from real situations, then it's a lot more difficult for you to understand how natives actually communicate. And it's also more difficult to develop fluency because you really need to see different examples of how someone might express things. So let me just make sure this is clear. On this side, so these are two separate things, although you might combine them or connect them later. But the thing on this side here, we're talking about the specific learning from a word example. So maybe we get a grammar point or a word or a phrase or pronunciation for something, but when we understand it well by focusing on it, that really helps us understand how we can use it in a variety of situations, okay? So here, let's say we use or learn the word swamp, and so you can see what a swamp is. It's kind of like a forest, but it's got lots of water. It's a darker place. Maybe you've got alligators and snakes, and it's kind of hot and wet. And so we can think about this idea of being covered with lots of work to do or chores or things like that. So I can describe a situation idiomatically in that way. So I can say, oh, I'm really swamped at work. I've got lots of things to do. On this side, we're talking about a specific situation like, what do people say when they lose their keys? And so this could be anything like, what do they say when they've lost their wallet or they can't find their car? Or, it's like you go into a parking lot and you've got 1,000 cars there, but you don't remember where your car is parked. Like, oh no, I lost my car. Like I can't find where my car is, something like that. So we could phrase this in a variety of ways. And so when different natives are talking about a situation like this, these are the kinds of things they might say, okay? So I can't seem to find my keys. My keys are missing. I lost my keys. I'm trying to find my keys. I don't know where my keys are. Where are my keys? Have you seen my keys? Okay, so these are all different examples. Both of these things, I'm giving you naturally varied review for each of these. So this is naturally varied review where we're talking about different situations or different ways of expressing a situation. And this is where we're getting different examples of vocabulary to really understand how it works, okay? So I talk in the book, let me just answer that question very quickly. I'll erase this because it's looking a little bit chaotic on the board here. I think people get the idea. I've lost my keys. So your brain actually starts looking more like kind of what I just drew up there with all of these connections being made. And so when you do that, the words just flow out automatically. All right, so what is the book about? So the book is The Strangest The book is called The Strangest Fluency Secret, and I am in the middle of writing it right now. So if you'd like to get the book, you can click on the link in the description below this video, but that's where people are already reading it right now. People are even watching this video, are reading the book at the same time, and I've got many more examples, and I go into a lot more detail about actually how you can develop fluency. So the book is for people who already know a lot of English. The book is written in English, although I might probably release some translations because this stuff it's easy to understand also in your native language. But the purpose here is just really helping people who know a lot of English, but they struggle to speak. The thing I found, like for me personally, is that when I didn't have certainty about particular vocabulary or situations or whatever, that's when I struggled to speak. And so a lot of people, they think they can understand something. So if you can understand what I'm saying right now, then like people, they think they know the language. So if you can understand me, you think, oh, I can understand. But if you have trouble speaking, the thing you're missing is certainty. So you can understand. If you can understand, you can recognize or listen to people talking, but you need certainty to speak. And so often the way people learning language is, they're kind of getting pieces of the language, but they don't really feel very confident and certain about them, and that's why they struggle to speak. So often people think, I'm not fluent because I don't know enough, like I need to know more words, or I need to live in an English-speaking country, or I need to be young, or I need to, whatever. They have lots of different ideas about what's required for that, but the truth is, they're just missing certainty. So you don't need to live in an English-speaking country in order to get fluent, and the strangest fluency secret is that you can actually, I'll just write this here, instead of speaking to become fluent, you become fluent to speak. That's the idea. So most people think I need to speak to become fluent, but that's really difficult for a lot of people, and often people don't know the vocabulary well enough anyway, just like we're talking about in today's video. So they don't really know the language very well, they don't feel certain about it, and so they struggle to speak anyway, even if they have chances to speak with natives. So I know lots of people, and I get mails all the time from people living in English-speaking countries like Canada or the UK, the United States, where they have lots of opportunities to speak, but they still don't feel fluent. The missing piece is not speaking opportunities. It's not natives or even needing to know more words. The problem is that they just don't really feel certain about their vocabulary. But if we can actually feel certain about the vocabulary first, then speaking becomes an automatic thing, just like we talked about in today's video. So if you get lots of good examples that really help you understand and feel certain, so not just recognize things, but you feel certain about using it, that's when you speak, okay? So these are two different ways of getting fluent in the language. This way is just much more difficult for people because it can be an embarrassing thing, or if you don't have anyone to practice speaking with, you just feel stuck. You think, I can't improve because I can't speak. So I need to speak that, and that's how I get fluent. But like, if you're actually getting fluent first, and really fluency, it just means understanding something really well. And when you feel confident, like you know something really well, you know what a person is going to say when you listen to them speak because you know those patterns really well, then you feel confident speaking as well. So you don't need to spend all your time speaking in order to develop fluency. You can just spend your time developing fluency so you speak. So I laugh every time I explain this because it literally is the exact opposite of what most people think they should be doing. And again, that's why I call it the strangest fluency secret. So the book explains what this is, why it happens, and how you can do it so that no matter where you're living, you can become a confident, fluent English speaker. So it's never been easier to do that. And even with only the first 6 chapters of the book complete, so that's what people have access to right now, that gives you the whole system. Chapters 7 and 8 are really talking about some of the ideas, explaining why this works and why it's possible. But as you go through it, the proof is all in the book, so you can feel it yourself. If you try these things, you will feel more confident and express yourself more fluently. So that's the idea of the book. So a typical language learning book is going to think kind of from this traditional way of thinking about how we get fluent. So it's going to teach you a few things, and it will say, okay, now it's your job to go out and practice saying those things. But as we learn, or I will explain in chapter 7, you really need a different kind of practice to actually get fluent. So we talked a little bit about that today, but this idea of practice makes perfect, it works differently for languages because real communication is unpredictable. You don't know what people are going to say. So just like the key example, we have a whole bunch of different examples, and that's just some of the ways people might express that. So there are maybe more common ways or some obscure, less common ways people might express things. But that's what happens in real communication. So if you're not prepared for that, if you are sitting and trying to repeat phrases to yourself, but people say something different in real communication, you will be unprepared for that. So if you actually want to be prepared and know how to communicate and express yourself spontaneously, quickly and easily, this will show you how. So it's an alternative, like this is the normal way that I'd say like maybe 99% of people do. And in the future, assuming my book becomes popular, more people will start learning the language this way. So I show exactly how this works, why it's possible, how you can do it, and you can do it anywhere. So you don't need to be young, or you don't need to live around natives or do anything. If you have access to the internet, which you do because you're watching this video, then you can get fluent. All right. Let me know if you have any specific questions though. Let's see. All right, Antonio says, I apologize, teacher. Vincent says, how could I get the book delivered to me in South Frick, maybe? So I don't have physical copies yet. Right now, this is only for early readers, but anybody can get the book, the digital copy of it. So you can get instant access to it today. Start reading it, and in an afternoon, you'll have the whole system. So it's already ready. Just click on the link in the description below this video to get the book. All right, Julian says, you must live near a hospital because I always hear the sound of an ambulance. Yeah, there's a fire station. It's not a hospital, but there is a fire station not that far from here. I am in downtown Nagasaki right now. All right, Sifu says, I understand. Thank you, and sorry if I bothered you. No, it's my job is to help you understand. So I'm glad when people ask questions over here. Okay, so Ganesh says, my keys deliberately have squirreled themselves away somewhere. Yes, like it's kind of like a funny thing, but we can talk about them in the same way, like my keys walked away. So obviously the keys are not walking away. I put them somewhere, I misplaced them, or maybe someone took them or whatever, or like a gremlin came and grabbed them and ran away or something. So yes, like you could say, it would be kind of correct and a native way to say, like my keys have squirreled themselves away. But it's just a little bit faster and easier and more common for people to say my keys walked away. Or you could say that with anything really, any kind of small object. Like I have my eraser here, I put it down and then I can't find it anymore. Oh no, my eraser walked away. All right, Bridge says, thank you, Teacher Drew, for your teaching styles. Now I am open to English language learning. Before I pushed English away because it seemed difficult. Yes, and this is a big thing for a lot of people. I talk about that in chapter 2 or chapter 3, but yes, English language learning, and not just English, but really learning any language in this way is actually quite frustrating for a lot of people. So I'd say for a majority of people who try to do it, like it's typically not a thing where a lot of people don't like going to school anyway, but they like language learning in school even less. So they hate it more than traditional going to school. Like I have to learn English or, whatever, like even the things you learn like science or something, it can all be a little bit difficult or frustrating, but language learning in particular is kind of taught in a backwards way that makes it more difficult for people to understand. So this way, I think in the future, more people will begin to adopt this. So as this approach becomes more popular. So people already talk about it kind of, like Stephen Krashen is an example. You've probably heard of comprehensible input. So that's part of this. Comprehensible input is where you're listening to things and understanding them. But what most people don't really focus on with that is that the goal of comprehensible input is certainty. Like, why do we get comprehensible input? It's not just to understand the language. If you actually